So the next person that is being brought before you guys, our next presenter titled the HNIC, which, by the way, I thought it was kind of funny because as I'm reading the notes here, you know, my white brother from another mother, Jason, says, I don't understand this HNIC. You will have to shape this into an intro to make sense to someone who doesn't know him. So for y'all that don't know, HNIC means head nigga in charge. Welcome, 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 welcome. Our next presenter's title is the HNIC, depending upon who is introducing it. You can feel free to say the whole thing. The HNIC started the most influential psychedelics cultural and community organization called Oakland Hyphae. He started the first psilocybin potency testing company in the world, known as Hyphae Labs, through which he's been running the Psilocybin Cup, now called the Hyphae Cup, a competition that has had systemic impact on the world of mushroom cultivation, which now countless white people are trying to copy and steal. Woo, I did not read these notes. Bah, bah. Oh man, where was I at? Hold up. Okay, so, he's recently established what he anticipates will be the most impactful psychedelic media organization, HyphaeLeaks, through which we will provide written journalism via the HyphaeLeaks Substack page and the HyphaeLeaks podcast, which I hope to be a part of. Recently launched in the collaboration of Psychedelics Today, the HNIC is a passionate advocate for the little guy. He is currently working hard to craft legislation that makes sure that drug dealers don't get left behind. Thank you, brother. The HNIC, thank you, clap it up for that. There's a lot of us that were affected by the legacy market, and we're gonna be, unfortunately, a lot of us are underrepresented in that space once the crossover happens. We got locked up behind the shit, but let's put the money back into the hands of the people. We deserve to be there, right? Don't we deserve to be there, Marcus? Yeah, come on now. All right, so the HNIC has arguably done more than any other individual to bring people together and connect people within the psychedelic space, with a particular focus in uplifting, elevating, and centering BIPOC communities. The HNIC is unbossed, and completely motherfucking independent, therefore making him a threat to corporate interests and white supremacy. Let's put our fucking hands together and welcome to the stage Reggie motherfucking Harris.
Hello. So this conversation is gonna be a little bit different if y'all can't tell. I'm a little bit different. My name is Reggie. First and foremost, I want to thank all y'all for being here, man. Thank y'all. 3 years ago, Jade and Stig invited me here, but I don't think I got the DM or something. 2 years ago, I made sure that I was here, and coming to Minneapolis was it was life-changing for real, because I got a chance to meet all y'all. I got a chance to meet, to see all the fantastic things that you guys are doing here within the community. And so I just want y'all to please give the folks, everybody, Cameron, Jay, Stig, everybody from Big Psych, can y'all please give them a hand for bringing this shit together, please? Last year I came and I did a business presentation. It was like year 2 or 3 for me, kind of being out of the closet and above ground in this psychedelic business space. If you can't tell, I'm not the world's best scientist. I'm not the world's best cultivator. I don't hold ceremony. You know, I'm not a high dose guy, even though you could fuck around and find some shit out on some of these mushrooms or on stage and find yourself in a high dose. Typically, that's not me. But I come to this space from commerce. Before I get into it, just a little bit about my background. The first drug I ever sold was mushrooms. And I got lucky to have the best, literally the best connection in the world. And I was selling them from the age of 16 through college when the rules changed in Europe. You know, right now I work with the biggest mushroom church in the world in Oakland, and when I dropped out of college to go work with the biggest mushroom church in the world, at that time it was in Switzerland. So I'm not new to this, but I came to it from a dealer's background, and you heard when people are talking to me about legalization or decriminalization, my passion is the dealers. You know, none of this shit would be here if it weren't for the people who grew it, who loaded their trunk up and drove it, who at one point, like I was doing, bringing it across the border. You know, we put our lives on the line for this. And so when you hear the way I talk, and you see the way I carry myself, I feel entitled to what the fuck I'm doing right now. And so I'm working hard to make sure that I pave a way for folks like what I consider folks in this audience, the little guy, you know, the people who ground level want to get into it, are cultivating in their, you know, spare bedroom, you know, working on tubs, or holding ceremony, people that just want to get into the commerce side. What I'm doing right now, what this presentation is for, is so that y'all don't get fucked. All right, so without further ado, and this might be shocking, I am going to say the N-word with the hard ER. If you're not ready for it, you can step out, trigger warning. And I am going to name names. And the reason I'm going to name names is because I wish somebody would have named names for me. Period. You know, it's frowned upon in this space to publicly speak about people that are bad actors, less so than the actual bad behavior. Sort of like racism. You know, when you call people out for racism, they're more offended by the call out than the racism. So without further ado, I want to get into something I put together called I Made Mistakes So You Don't Have to. It's me building on my my presentation from last year. What are my objectives? My objectives are to save you time, heartache, resources, using my experience as an example. My second objective is to normalize publicly talking about and calling out bad actors in the psychedelic space. The 3 points that I will touch on is lawyer up. I'm going to continue with what I talked about last year. Contracts are crucial. And the final point that I'm going to talk about is called persistence pays. And I'm going to make these examples through real life stories. That's me. Who the fuck am I? I'm a businessman. And the first one and the last one go together. I don't care what you say, they go together. I'm a businessman. I'm a community organizer. I've worked, I guess at this point, 3 presidential campaigns, two Obama campaigns in Ohio, and a Bernie. I was on the campaign with Bernie. I wrote a presidential endorsement. I think it's the most influential presidential endorsement that's ever been written. I wrote it on behalf of Eric Garner's daughter, Erica, for her presidential endorsement for Bernie Sanders. If you go to YouTube, type in Erica Garner, look at it. I'll pay you $1 if you don't cry. I'm an activist. You know, policy is my thing. I love policy. When I was in school, I studied political science. I cared deeply about it. I still do care deeply about it. But I got out of activism because, quite frankly, I was starving. You know, I was starving. Half of my check was going to rent. Half of my monthly check was going to rent. And I noticed that the people in the activism space that had the real power were the funders. And so what I said was that I'm going to get out of it. I'm going to make money. And I'm going to come back as a funder, so people dance to my beat. A mentor. If you see the way that I move around, there's always young people around me. And what I'm trying to do is create, you know, basically apprenticeship so that people can see. You know, there's not, my cousin is from Cleveland. He does not have a college. He does not have a college degree, but this motherfucker be in world-class meetings. If I'm in the meeting, he's in the meeting because there's more than one way to learn. And I try to do that with everybody. I fly out here, and every time I'm here, I try to sit down with Jade and Stig, and I'm not saying that I mentor them, but I try to put whatever's in my head in their head to help move the shit forward. My man Tony, it's important that we don't gatekeep, knowledge, power, or access, especially amongst ourselves. All right, now you see where this is about to go. For context, capitalism is the exploitative economic and political system where trade and industry are controlled by private owners for profit. What is chattel slavery? Chattel slavery is a system in which people, particularly black people, were bought, sold, and owned forever by other people, particularly white folks. Slaves had no rights to their ideas, products, or bodily sovereignty. You'll see how that ties in a second. Stealing for your culture. Theft from black people is and has been a cornerstone of capitalism and white-body supremacy, at least since the foundation of this country. When we talk about capitalism, what was the first capital in this country? What was it? Us, my ancestors. Wall Street, who the fuck was on that wall? Us, my ancestors. If you go to New York right now, walk through Wall Street, Lower Manhattan, you will see African burial mounds. You will see them in the middle of the city. Why do you think African burial mounds were there? What do you think Central Park was? Central Park was known as Seneca Village, an African village. Modern day, the NBA, 70% of the players are black, 93% of the owners are white. Who do you think is the player over here and who do you think is the owner over here? You don't have to guess. De La Soul. Is anybody familiar with De La Soul? De La Soul made some of the most influential hip hop out. And up until about 2 years ago, they were starving. How does that happen? How do you sell 5 million albums and you're starving? You have nothing to hand down to your parents. Now, the man that owns Tommy Boy Records, he ain't starving. Does he look like, he looks skinny, but he don't look like he's starving. And I guarantee you, until De La Soul fought for their rights, he intended on selling and handing his catalog down to his kids as their birthright. Business deals throughout history. Over the last 4 years, I have noticed the worst practices of business history rearing its head, its ugly head, in the psychedelic space as the status quo. I want y'all to be, you heard me say it last year, I'm gonna say it again this year. When they tell you that this is just a standard contract, that's the status quo. And generally the standard contract is one that's gonna fuck you over. Theft of ideas, theft of labor, poison pills in contracts, and financial abuse and bullying are just some of the things that are happening right now in this space of love and light. And people aren't talking about it. How does this relate to me? Well, in 2021, I was approached by a very, very, very famous man. He doesn't live in Oakland, he lives in the Oakland area. He lives in a place called Piedmont, which used to be a walled off town, whites only town, in the middle of Oakland. But in 2021, I was approached by a man named Ed Rosenthal. Raise your hand if you know who Ed Rosenthal is. Ed Rosenthal is extremely famous for writing cannabis cultivation books. And he came to the Oakland Psychedelic Conference and he approached me. Reg, I want to partner with you to write a book. I was starstruck. This famous dude wants to write a book with me? I said, Ed, I don't know, I'm really busy, let me think about it. In 2022, we finally ended up coming to a way that I could write a book with him that would be a quality book, but would also preserve my time. How do we do that? I found a co-author named Seth Warner. On the internet, his name is Michael Rising. Seth Warner, for all intents and purposes, is a nobody. He was a friend who ran the San Francisco Psychedelic Society until he was showed the door for a number of reasons, some of which was inappropriateness that I'm sure y'all hear about when this book comes out. But I found him, and I knew that he was a good teacher, and I knew that he had a curriculum, and I said, Seth, let's team up, let's write this book, write it with Ed Rosenthal, we'll put this book out. Ed's 78 years old, man. If he has his name on this book, and we both have our name on this book, man, first of all, we're gonna be famous, but also he's gonna die soon. And then the book's really going up. Sorry that's how I think, but that's how I think. So we agreed. In 2023, the beginning of this year, we had produced a book called Welcome to Psilocybin. If you go to Amazon right now, it's there. I can show you a picture. I should have put it on here, but I can show you a picture where it had my name on it. But I started hearing rumors about impropriety with this cultivator, Seth, and women. And I approached him after we submitted the final manuscript. I said, Seth, man, I'm hearing this shit in the streets. Women are saying these things. How do we address them? And he sent me back a text message that clearly came from a lawyer. A few weeks later, I got an email from the publisher, Ed Rosenthal, canceling the contract. To this day, they haven't told me why, but that's neither here nor there at this point. The contract got canceled. And then I saw that they had signed a new contract between the two, and they planned to issue the book without me. Okay, what did I do? First thing I did, and this is the importance of community. There's a gentleman in my community, my tribe, named Hyphae Everett. Shout out to Hyphae, he's a god. If you heard A Table of Our Own documentary about black professionals in psychedelics, Dr. Carl Hart's in there, I'm in there. He put that book out, but I called Hyphae and I said, Hyphae, man, this is what's happening, dog. I don't know what to do. He says, don't worry about it. Take this lawyer's number. I took it, and I called. Second thing I did, when they did this fucked up stuff, it kind of works the same way as dealing with police. Anything you say at this point can and will be used against you. So at this point, they're calling me, they just want to talk. I'm like, well, Drake says he doesn't like to talk when there's nothing left to say. So at this point, I cut off conversation to all the parties because I didn't want to give them any more ammunition to use against me, but also I wanted to protect my own energy. Like if you wanted to talk, the time to talk was before you canceled the contract. Third, I took action. So not only did I listen to the lawyer, but I started talking about it. Everybody knows these people. And the downside of me talking about it means other people end up getting fucked and other people end up getting hurt. So I talked about it long and far. And the fourth thing I did was my cousin and I flew out to New York and I actually saw Dr. Hart at this same time, but we flew out to New York and we sat down with the publisher of my book that's out on the desk right now, Business Secrets of Drug Dealing, that was written by a very famous author and myself named Matt Taibbi, where I went to that publisher and I says, hey, I got this book, I got this manuscript, I want a new deal. And he gave me a great deal. So typically with the book deals that I had in the past, a publisher is required, the publisher is entitled to 12% royalties. That's standard, all right? 12% royalties. And the way Ed's books are set up is they do product placement. Now, if you watch the way I move around in the psychedelic space, I am exceptional at raising money. And so the most money Ed raised doing product placement is $10,000. I was certain that I could raise 100. Okay. And so the deal that Ed Rosenthal had proposed to me with product placement, even with the money beyond the $10,000 that he had maxed out on, I said, Ed, you can have the first $10,000, but anything after that, can we break it down 60-40 your way? The man stamped his feet and says, I don't have to negotiate with you and bounce. So with this new deal, I negotiated for 40% royalties and 100% of product placement. So keep an eye out for my cultivation book, but it worked out in the end. But I want to circle back to the lawyer. I didn't take my fight to the internet, and I didn't yell and scream. The lawyer gave me very specific instructions, and he did this for free. I immediately did what the lawyer told me to do, which which involves contacting the Library of Congress. And through that free advice, I now own this book. They just don't know about it. Number 2, contracts are crucial. Has anybody heard of an event that takes place in Oregon called Myceliate the Festival? Good. I've become, in my walk, like what my partner Ian was talking about, we've been very blessed to be able to parlay events into science, into business, but everything feeds itself. And what I've done is start forming partnerships, like the partnership I had with my homegirl, Ancestor Project. Charlotte. You know, we do these events and we partner with folks and we do, and like I travel to DC, we do the national conference. That wasn't just Hyphae, but it was Hyphae and what was formerly known as Ancestor Project. It was really just me and Charlotte. But I have these partnerships because it's better when the community is involved. There's a person that is in Oregon or Washington named Cassandra Posey. She and I thought it would be a good idea to bring the permaculture community together with the mushroom community. Again, my value is I'm very good at selling out events. I'm very good at raising money. At this time, Cassandra was relatively not known. And you know, I knew how to do these things. So we agreed to do a festival called Myceliate. I flew to Washington 2 days after having a surgery, walked through the venue. The venue looked good. We both put down the money. All of a sudden, I looked up and speaker announcements started coming out, run of shows started coming out, you know, sponsorships, stuff started going up, and I'm confused. What the fuck is going on? Like, this does not feel like a partnership. And I reached out to them and I asked them, and they said that they couldn't get in touch with me. Now, I don't deny that it's oftentimes very difficult to get in touch with me unless business or money is involved. If business or money is involved, you don't have to remind me about nothing. I'm on that ass. Ever. Nobody will ever say that I dropped the ball there. And so I'm confused as to how this is happening. If you know Cassandra, she is a very petite, small, rich white woman. So at this point, I'm confused as to how to handle it. If she was anything other than that, particularly a man, I definitely know how I would handle it. But me, a dark-skinned, loud black man with locks that walks around with a hoodie on that says, "Fuck around and find out," it's a bad look, me pressing this woman. So, ultimately, sponsorship happened, ticket sales came in, and I discovered that I was cut out of the entire festival. They didn't even get my money back. I'm confused. So ultimately, after calling and begging, I got my deposit turned back, but I was not compensated for promoting it. I was not compensated for any of the work that I did with this festival. What I got in return was, quite frankly, a besmirchment of my name when I did nothing wrong, and I was the one who was aggrieved. What did I do? I tried to reason, and that's a euphemism. I begged, and imagine me begging. I begged. I cut off all communication because the social implications of a black man pressing a white woman for money owed just looks bad, and I didn't want to deal with that. I didn't want to have to explain to anybody what I was doing. I just decided that I was going to cut my losses and walk away. Took the L on the chin. What should I have done? Sign a contract. How many folks in this room right now are involved in business dealings or business partnerships with people that don't have their agreement in writing? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. It's okay. Like, you're not a bad person. I do it and still am. Jay-Z has a song that said it's all good just a week ago. And you don't want to be the week after it was all good trying to get your shit together. So Ronald Reagan has a statement where he says, "Trust but verify." My suggestion to you, to anybody who plans on entering into commerce, even if it's with friends, and me and my man Ian have gone through this, like we're still going through it, is work out your deal, You know, there's ways that you can work with the same lawyer if you want, but there's ways that you can save money, work out your deal, preferably with a lawyer, but if not, still work it out, get it on paper, and have that piece of paper signed while the shit is good and you guys still love each other. Because I guarantee you, on the back end, it's impossible for you to put that toothpaste back into the tube. Persistence pays. Has anybody heard of a company named Pacific Substrates? Good. Good. Pacific Substrates is a substrate company based out of Oakland. They're not in Oakland anymore because I think after our thing, they decided to move to Oklahoma. But Pacific Substrates is a substrate company that has sponsored my events since 2001. The relationship grew. As Hyphae grew, they grew. They're generally well known now as associating with me, or my brand leaves to a level of credibility that you can't just earn quickly. And so working with me allowed them to skip a step, and their company grew. In 2022, Pacific Substrates approached Hyphae to sponsor the Oakland Psychedelic Conference for a significant amount, a nice 5 figures. Cool, and this is generally what we did. 1 week prior to the event, they came to me and they said, Reg, X, Y, and Z happened. We're not going to be able to pay you this money. And I said a significant 5 figures. And they came to me 1 week out. I'd already spent the money. I'd already committed to it. But at this point, I'm locked in. I'm a reasonable guy. I said, how long do you need? They said, 30 days. Cool, I got 30. So I underwrote the whole thing, and I've never owned a credit card, so if I'm spending it, it's spent. 30 days turned into 60 days, 60 days turned into 6 months. And if you've not gotten the vibe from me yet, I'm very sensitive about black stuff. Black History Month came around, and I'm sitting here in Black History Month. At this point, I'm behind the 8 ball. I had to borrow money from my family in order to cover my bills. My cousin knows I was stressed out. I'm like, dog, we might have to get jobs. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen. and for real, Ian knows I was stressed the fuck out. And Black History Month came, and I'm like, this is impossible. And we're not even talk about Christmas, but we're gonna talk about Black History Month, February. I sent them an email. I wrote them an email, and I basically said, you know, it's Black History Month. At this point, you guys owe me a whole bunch of money. You haven't made an effort to pay me my money. You know, where I come from, your word is your bond. Your integrity is in question right now. And quite frankly, I believe that if I were one of your white partners, you would not treat me this way. I said all this in an email. For me, this was my best bet in still being diplomatic. I hadn't said anything publicly. I'm just trying my best to, like, be a good guy and not rock the boat, but still get my money. And me and my cousin continued to go by their office in Oakland all the time and let them know we ain't forgot and we know where you at. And at a certain point, I said, you know what? If you don't have the money, I'll take whatever you got. They had drugs. After 2 additional months, one of their partners finally cleared the debt. They end up giving me, I don't know, 25 or 35 pounds of mushrooms, which ultimately ended up being a great look because I know what to do with them. Check in my book, Business Secrets of Drug Dealing. But this was in April, they finally paid me. And when they gave me my money, I said, all right, we good now. We can move along. And the white boy said to me, he said, Reg, man, you should have never sent that email. Like, what you mean I should have never sent that email? What you want me to do? He's like, my partners just didn't like the email. You made it racial. We could have beat your ass. And I said, we could have done that. We could have sued you. You know, I said, if we were any of your other partners, we would have had you in the courtroom for what you owed me. But instead, we said that we were willing to take drugs as payment. I guarantee you've never gone to your investors and tried to give them their money back in drugs. But we took it. and y'all don't want to work with me, fuck it, I don't want to work with y'all neither. Keep it moving. What did I do? I stayed quiet for 11 months, pretty much until now. I consistently pressed them through in-person visits, texts, and emails. I highlighted the racial context through email. I provided alternative solutions, the drugs. And all of the owners except for one, for me, it sounded like what they basically says, fuck that nigga, what's he gonna do? What was I gonna do? Ultimately, I accepted the payment and not agreed in a form that we didn't agree to, which ended up working out in the long run. What should I have done? Bonus lesson. Sign a contract. Since then, my partnership, my sponsorship agreements with people who still providing significant amounts of money, I have a contract signed every single time. And I should have noticed this as the red flag because now the partners that I work with initiate the contract process, which tells me that they're operating in good faith. You know, these other folks would squirm around it. They didn't want to deal with it. It was just word of mouth, and ultimately I ended up getting fucked. I mean, it's questionable how I ended. I feel like I ended out well, but I would have liked to have my money when they said they were going to give it instead of having it go through Christmas and not be able to buy gifts. Takeaways / 3-year reflections. Like I said, Ronald Reagan has a statement, I'm not a Republican, but I like the saying, trust but verify in business. I wouldn't take my mother's word at this point, and I know it's extreme to say, but that's how I feel like you should operate in business. Biggie has a line where he says, even your mother will set you up properly gassed up. And so just to make sure that you're solid and at least the agreement is solidified, trust but verify. Believe in people's behaviors. People's behaviors are warning signs. In every one of these instances, I saw the people who I was working with dealing with their partners poorly. I saw Pacific Substrates dealing with partners who were pressing them out for money in court, but they knew they had money, and so they gloated about the fact that they could run out the clock and run up the financials with lawyers. Do you know how much lawyers cost right now on average? $500 an hour. $400 if you're lucky. How many hours of lawyer fees can y'all afford? And they know that. Always get agreements in writing at a minimum. And don't be afraid to publicly talk about bad behavior. Okay, I think I'm done. I'm doing it. I'm doing what I'm doing to empower y'all to do the same. Do good business with good intentions, with good objectives, and protect yourselves. Before I close, I want to put this up, and I want to leave it up here for a second. Did you bring those genetics for me? Tony? Perfect. So what we're going to do here, you can follow me on Instagram at Oakland.Hyphae, at Oakland.Hyphae. If you want to stay in touch with what I'm doing, if you want to see when we're coming to town, we're here about 4 times a year. We go ice fishing sometimes, it's fun. You can keep up with the science at Hyphae Labs. But what we've done is create a Substack page, and if you Google Substack and HyphaeLeaks, we've created a Substack page, and what Substack is they've taken my IG down. My last Instagram had 20,000, and there's this group of incels that reports every post that I have. And so they end up taking down my Instagram with 20,000, and now I'm unable to communicate with people. And the reason that's hurtful is because I've worked hard for that, and there's a lot of people who like what I have to say, and we're moving a lot. Like we're connected. We connect the community, and so it's just good to stay tapped in. When they wipe it out, it takes my voice. What Substack is a censorship-free platform right now that a lot of journalists are using. And so through our Substack, we communicate directly through you by way of email. It's free. If you choose and you want to support what we're doing, you can sign up as a paid subscriber. But if you don't, that's fine. Sign up for our Substack. And if you sign up for our Substack and see me at the table out here, I got free mushroom genetics for you, but only if you sign up for the HyphaeLeaks Substack. It's the only thing that I know that will not be taken away from me. Oakland Hyphae they can take on Instagram, Hyphae Labs they can take on Instagram, HyphaeLeaks they can take on Instagram, and Hyphae Nootropics they can take from Instagram with really no explanation necessary. So if you want to stay tapped into what we're doing, tap into those. We are having in 1 month the Oakland Psychedelic Conference. This will be our 3rd annual. I'm very excited about what we're putting together. If you can make it to Oakland and you're here at Big Psych, man, I'll hook up discount tickets so you can come and have a good time. But other than that, man, it's just short and sweet. I hope that you guys have been able to take some things away from this that enable you to protect yourselves, that enable you to make good deals and to thrive in business. And I hope to see you guys again, same festival, same people, maybe bigger next year. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.